studio, local heartthrob, or so he tells me, Nick Johnson. Good morning, Nick.
Good morning, Chris. That's a very nice introduction.
And a very, very warm welcome to Hot Radio. Right, well, Nick is involved with his company, which is called MyCarCoach, and he's going to talk to us all about cars, I believe. Anyway, what is MyCarCoach all about?
Yeah, you'll have to excuse the random title, but if you effectively think of the concept of life coaching translated to car buying, and that's how you arrive at the car coach title. And MyCarCoach came about because today buying a car can be a real hassle for a lot of people. It can be rather intimidating. There's lots of jargon to navigate through, a bewildering choice of different engines and options, and it can be intimidating for many people. So what MyCarCoach does is provide you with your very own car expert and someone who will manage all of that buying process on your behalf to ultimately save you time, energy and money.
What actually led you to set the company up?
Well, I've been involved in finding cars for people. I used to be involved in a finance house that provided finance for cars. So I'd been sourcing cars for 12 years or more, and it just came to me that it's such a dated process when people trawl around, car showrooms on a wet Sunday afternoon and spend hours looking at the internet. I just thought that there must be another way to do this. And when you think that buying a car is the second most important purchase that you'll ever make after buying a house, and people always rely on professionals when buying a house, so why shouldn't you do the same when buying a car?
Yeah, sure. Well, I remember the hassle with the last one I bought. So is it expensive to in effect get someone else to do all this for them?
Well, no. I mean, that's the beauty, really, because MyCarCoach, any fees that we charge are directly linked to the cash savings that we get for our clients. So we find that that's a win-win from our client perspective because they can tangibly see how much money they've saved from using our service.
Oh, good. And what sort of cars? I mean, presumably you wouldn't go out and buy a battered old Mini for me for £100, would you?
Well, it does encompass all kinds of different cars, right from the super luxury right down to the first car for your son or daughter. We do find that the most demanding of our clients are between the 17 to 21-year-olds who simply almost want the world, but for a limited budget. So, yeah, it does encompass all kinds of cars.
Yeah, my mind was just wondering, actually, what's the most exciting car you've ever been involved with?
Well, I was in a fortunate position last week when I was asked to look for a black Ferrari convertible, which is ideal on a day like this. A rather nice businessman was in that fortunate position up in Leeds who charged me with finding that car for him. He was obviously so busy that he couldn't find it himself, which seems a little perverse given the car, because surely that's part of the pleasure to go out and find that kind of car. But that was exciting to be involved with. Yeah.
OK, so someone comes to you and says, Nick, I need a car, whatever, an Audi, whatever. Yeah. How long does it usually take?
We always aim for a week, and that's between client instruction and actual delivery. But obviously it can take slightly longer, slightly shorter, depends on the client requirements. Some people might want it done very quickly because perhaps their current car's out of service, or you will get those clients that want very precise things and then are perhaps willing to wait longer than a week.
We've had one or two texts and emails in, Nick, asking some questions that I actually wanted to ask. So we've got David from Parkston who asks, should we buy petrol cars or diesel cars?
That's an interesting question, actually. It's one that I get asked a lot. And the first thing I would say is if your annual mileage is below 15,000 miles per year, then it's not worth the additional outlay to buy a diesel car. And ultimately, if it's greater than 15,000, then by all means consider a diesel. But the second thing to consider is the type of driving that you do. Because the EU, in their wisdom, have implemented a number of environmental measures with modern diesel cars, and they don't take too kindly to being driven in a lot of stop-start traffic. So if your commute's quite short and the car never gets a decent run, a lot of new diesels will actually get clogged up, and that costs a lot of money to fix. So consider your annual mileage. If it's under 15,000, buy petrol, and secondly, consider the type of driving that you do as well. Right,
good advice. OK, we've also had one from Erica of Little Down. What is a hybrid?
Yeah, that is a buzzword at the minute. That seems to be the case within the car industry. The best way to describe it is that the hybrid is half petrol or diesel, perhaps, and that's matted to an electronic motor as well. And the reason for this, the hybrid, if you like, the benefits that it gives is it reduces your fuel consumption and it actually provides increased power. I think Toyota Prius is probably the most famous hybrid, and often they'll work just on electric power at speeds of under 30 miles an hour or for distances less than a couple of miles. But you will see a lot of hybrid cars that are coming onto the market in the next few years. So, yeah, be on the lookout for that term.
We will. OK, we've got George, who hasn't said where he's from, but I trust he's local. What's the best way to buy a car, Nick? Is it best to pay it with cash if you've got it, or is it best to take out a finance deal?
Well, the old saying that cash is king is no longer really the case, I'm afraid, when it comes to car buying. And that's because the margins that, in particular, car dealers work to are very tight. So they rely on things like finance to get extra commission. So if you go in there with, a suitcase full of cash, apart from getting a lot of strange looks, you won't actually perhaps get the best possible service because the dealer will want to be making additional commission off the finance. So whether you personally choose to buy in cash or car finance comes to, I guess, your cash flow and whether your cash could be used better elsewhere. So, but yeah, cash is no longer king, I'm afraid.
OK, and we've got another one in from... can't pronounce that name, but anyway, we've got one in. What should people look for when buying a car? Well, that's a quick one to answer in 10 seconds.
Oh, 10 seconds? OK. OK. Firstly, does the car that you see match the description of the advert? Check all of the paperwork thoroughly. Check all the body panels. Start the car from cold as well. And look for go and see the car in the best possible light as well, so you can check for any dings or dents. What
else should people be looking for when they're buying a car?
Well, when you go to view a car, in today's modern cars, there's so many different electrics, so make sure you check every different type of electrical switch that you can find. Check the condition of the tyres and go for a test drive as well and check the brakes and everything. Always a good idea. And a good tip, actually, is that when you look in the boot, if the boot lining is very fresh in comparison to the rest of the car, it could, I stress the word could, indicate that the car might have had a rear-end collision. So that's a good tip. And also check for water stains, and that's particularly prevalent with convertibles as well. Wow.
And make sure there's no body in the boot either, I suppose. And finally, what's the best time to buy a car? When would you get the best deal?
Well, don't go buying a convertible on a day like this, because obviously, as you can imagine, this is a peak. But now would actually probably be a good time to buy a 4x4 and buy a convertible in the winter, of course. But having said that, on a hot sunny day when everyone is on the beach, as they are today, go into your car dealer and you'll probably find it empty. So the car dealer will probably be bored out of his mind and therefore willing to do greater deals. And towards month end and all the different quarter ends as well is a good time because salesmen are desperate to get those last remaining sales figures.
Yeah, of course. Great advice, Nick. Right, well, thank you so much for coming in. Nick Johnson, MyCarCoach. So how do people find you, Nick?
Well, if you go visit our website, which is www.mycarcoach, all one word, .co.uk. And for any buying tips or general driving tips, I have a Twitter account, which is www.twitter.com/MyCarCoach.
Fantastic. But failing everything, presumably if they just Google MyCarCoach, they'll find you. MyCarCoach. Nick Johnson, you're a lovely fella. It's been a joy speaking with you. Thank you very much for coming in.
It's been a pleasure.